Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Santa Michael Myers. No, but seriously, Jeffrey the Tin Man Taylor. And today I'll be reacting to Disturbing Cases of Real Killer Santa Claus by the Mr. Nightmare channel. Now, I told you in the last video I reacted to Mr. Nightmare, I'll be reacting to 3 Christmas uh, videos from him. So I'm kicking off with this one first. Hence why I'm wearing a Killer Santa getup. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag.
There are countless Christmas horror movies focused on killer Santas, but maybe not so surprisingly, there have been some real-life killer Santas out there.
Oh yeah, there are. And the movie that he was shown with the Santa on the table, that's Santa's Sleigh for those that haven't seen it, but I like that movie. And also this one that they're showing is Christmas Evil.
And in this video, I'm going to tell you about the disturbing stories of a couple of them. Just a heads up, this video may not be holly jolly, and there are some darker themes.
Right.
Joseph and Alice Ortega loved Christmas. It was their favorite time of year to spend with their family. Their 2 oldest sons, James and Charles, and their daughters Letitia, Alicia, and Sylvia. On Christmas Eve of 2008, the Ortega family invited all 5 of their adult children and their families to their home in Covina, California, a middle to upper middle class, low crime community about 20 miles east of Los Angeles. The family was in the middle of a Christmas Eve poker game when the doorbell rang, and what unfolded next was unimaginable. Shortly after the doorbell sounded, police received 911 calls from the Ortega's neighbor. The caller cried into the phone that someone was burning down the Ortega's house. That someone was Bruce Jeffrey Pardo, dressed in a Santa Claus suit. The fire department was dispatched to the Ortega house, but the calls kept coming in.
I heard about this guy. They were talking about him in that animated video compilation about Killer Santa Claus. What was that channel's name? I think it was IMB Scary Tales or something like that. Well, they were talking about this case, so I know who they're talking about.
Some even reported that they heard shooting coming from the house, and when the police arrived at the scene, it was a total nightmare.
Man, that thing's going up blazing.
Ortega family members police could locate was Letitia, her husband, and their 8-year-old daughter, who managed to escape the house and make it to a neighbor's house.
Now, is the guy in your house right now? We're having 2 houses down on the Google. Okay. Ma'am, hold on. Is he at your house? Yes, he's constantly shooting. What do you...
Lady, listen to the 911 operator. Calm down and tell her what is happening step by step. Don't keep rambling about, oh, we're 2 houses down or whatever. Is he still in your house? Just say, yes, he's still at the house. Don't keep rambling about other stuff. But I can understand she's in terror fright mode right now. So I can see why she's like talking in a panic.
You think his name is Bruce? Okay, and who is he to you guys? Who is he to you? He's my ex-brother-in-law. They're going through this right now. Okay. Hold on 1 second, okay? I don't know who else is alive. I know, ma'am. Just stay on the phone with me, okay? My whole family, there's 25 people. I know.
25 people. Oh my goodness, this is so sad. Really. Hate that guy even did that to their house, just burning up.
You know, it's okay. The officers are there. They're trying to get to you guys, okay?
Letitia's daughter, however, had been shot, so the family had already made their way to the hospital. What happened was Sylvia Ortega Pardo, Bruce Pardo's soon-to-be ex-wife, had finalized their divorce the week prior to the attack. This apparently caused Bruce to snap in the worst way imaginable, and this was his way of getting revenge. Bruce had arrived at the Ortega home in a Santa costume with a gift-wrapped package containing a rolling air compressor converted to deliver gasoline from it, and at least 4 9mm semi-automatic handguns.
Jeez Louise. Bruce here looks like he was ready for battle. I'm not joking about this, y'all, but I'm just saying that as a fact. I'll say he snapped. I also hate that he shot that girl too, but I'm glad she made it out all right.
His 8-year-old niece Katrina, the daughter of Letitia, ran to answer the door in excitement to be greeted with the Santa, only to be shot in the face. Luckily, she survived. Bruce then started firing indiscriminately at fleeing partygoers.
Yeah, thankfully she survived. But I know for a fact that will probably ruin a child's, imagination with Santa, because they will think that, Santa is a jolly nice person just coming to visit them. But then if they got shot by a Santa or attacked by a Santa some way or another, then, all that stuff is out the window. They'll be starting to be scared of every Santa they see in a mall or parade or anything. I still feel sorry for her.
After he ran out of bullets, Bruce pulled out his homemade flamethrower to spray 18 gallons of gasoline into the house, causing it to burn down. In the middle of investigating the aftermath of this chaotic scene, police received a tip from a neighbor. She and her husband had seen a car leaving the cul-de-sac at around 11:45 p.m. Police started searching the Ortega's scorched home. They found bodies burned beyond recognition, which were later identified as missing Ortega family members. A total of 9 people were murdered. While police were busy investigating this massacre, they received a call from Bruce's brother, Brad Pardo, who returned home from a Christmas party to find his brother laying dead in a pool of blood. Bruce had taken his own life. On Christmas Day, police interviewed Letitia, who said that despite the Santa Claus costume, beard, and hat, she could identify the shooter to be her sister's ex-husband, Bruce Pardo. Investigators then went back to Brad's house, where Bruce was found dead, and searched his car, which ended up being the same car the Ortega's neighbors had described seeing on their street after the murders. Inside the vehicle, police found a Santa suit and thousands of rounds of ammunition. The car had also been booby-trapped to explode once the Santa suit was removed, and though the vehicle exploded, no one was injured.
Well, thank God for that. That no cops or anybody got injured, but the cops, they should have looked thoroughly when they opened up the trunk, and if they see a thin wire running into like an explosive device, they need to step back, close off the area, and let bomb squad take care of this. But of course, I understand they didn't see it, so when they pulled the suit, it just boom. But I'm glad that, they walked out of there all right. But this Bruce Pardo guy was insane. Like, he was making sure he was going to destroy the evidence.
The autopsy of Bruce revealed third-degree burns on his hands and arms, and part of the Santa suit had melted onto his body. Police also found $17,000 in cash cling-wrapped on his legs inside a girdle. Police believed he didn't initially plan to kill himself. Around the same time, a man reported a suspicious car parked in front of his Pasadena home. Police ran the plates and found the car had been rented by Bruce. Though the car wasn't rigged, it was packed with supplies including a computer, clothes, water, food, and maps of the US and Mexico. Police believe Bruce had been planning on escaping to Mexico after his killing spree, and this was his getaway vehicle. The vehicle was also parked about 500 feet from the house of Scott Nord, Sylvia's divorce attorney. This was definitely not a coincidence, and Bruce was likely planning on also murdering Scott, because in June of that year, Bruce was ordered to pay $1,800 a month in spousal support. The divorce clearly took over Bruce's life, and he began to plot ways to get back at Sylvia, and instead of just killing her, he decided that he was going to destroy everything and everyone that she loved. The most likely explanation for Bruce's suicide would be his unexpected injuries. He didn't realize there was an open flame somewhere in the house, likely a candle, and when he was spraying gasoline, this led to an explosion that left him horrifically burned. Instead of driving to kill Sylvia's attorney and then escaping to Mexico like he most likely originally planned, Bruce instead went to his brother's, where he killed himself because of how badly he was burned. Katrina Yusupolsky is alive and well today, and fortunately, she hasn't let the horrific experience overtake her, and she's currently living her life to the fullest.
I'm glad that she's okay and she's living life to the fullest, like he said. But I know that she does not want to talk about that night, because I wouldn't talk about it either. Imagine a former family member just coming in, killing everybody you love as Santa. This man right here took the cowardly way out. He escaped justice by self-deleting himself. But yeah, like Mr. Nightmare said, he wasn't planning on doing that. He was probably going to go to Mexico and hide out there, and also kill his wife's attorney. But anyway, let's continue on with the next story.
But unfortunately, Bruce Pardo was not the only story of a killer Santa named Bruce.
What a coincidence.
Bruce MacArthur was known as an outwardly jovial man who was the perfect Santa due to his ample white hair and beard, and so that's what he did as his second job. He was a Santa at Toronto's Agincourt Mall until as recently as 2016. Bruce was at the time 68 years old, and when he wasn't working as a mall Santa, he was working as a successful landscaper trusted by his many clients to turn their yards into lush gardens. The sick thing is, Bruce's jolly personality he conveyed was just a front. The parents happily watching their kids on his knee, and his clients admiring their new lawns had no idea what Bruce actually was. A necrophile and a serial killer. Little did one of his clients know, he was turning their lush new garden into a graveyard. Between September 2010 and June 2017, Bruce murdered at least 8 men. His targets were usually vulnerable, having been poor, lonely, or new immigrants. All of Bruce's victims had arrived to what they thought was a safe country to explore their sexuality. Bruce's seemingly welcoming and friendly nature led his victims to thinking he was a friend and to trusting him. Then he would kill them. Bruce was described by colleagues and coworkers to be a great guy who always had a smile on his face. For 30 years, he was seemingly happily married to his wife Janice, who he had 2 children with and lived in a house in Oshawa with, a middle-class town very close to downtown Toronto. In the late 90s, however, Bruce came out of the closet, probably to the shock of his wife, and not long after suggesting that the two have an open relationship, he left his family and moved to Toronto. But he remained on speaking terms with his family. Bruce became a regular in gay neighborhoods and wanted to be part of the LGBT community. But pretty soon that community didn't want him to be a part of it, as he quickly earned himself a reputation of being trouble. In 2003, when in his late 50s, Bruce received his first criminal conviction for the assault of a man with an iron pipe in the man's home 2 years prior. Bruce turned himself into the police, and throughout the case, he maintained that he blacked out before the assault and didn't know why he did it.
Blacked out my foot. He had a lot of rage in him, and he wanted to try and kill the guy. There you go. There's a case. But let me guess, it got overturned.
In January of 2003, Bruce pleaded guilty to 1 count of assault causing bodily harm and assault with a weapon. But thanks to his lawyers, Bruce didn't serve prison time. Rather, he was ordered to attend counseling for anger management and provide a DNA sample to police. A few months later, Bruce had his record suspended, so nobody would ever know that he'd been arrested at all. Bruce's landscaping business was busy enough to occasionally hire casuals, until one of those hires disappeared, Mahid Kayhan. Bruce admitted to police to knowing Mahid. He told police that Mahid had worked for him doing landscaping for a month, and the 2 men had a sexual relationship that Bruce claimed he broke off. Bruce was not a suspect at the time of the interview. He was treated as a witness in the missing persons cases. Bruce's approach to murder was usually the same, strangulation using a rope and metal bar. When his victims were dead, he posed their bodies and photographed them, sometimes in his apartment and sometimes in his red Dodge Caravan.
Okay, now that guy's a sick freak. That's somebody you definitely do not want to hang around with. If he's went to anger management counseling and he's still like attacking aggressively these guys, jeez Louise. I'll be calling the cops right then and there. I don't care if he tries to beg and tell me not to do it. I'm calling for my own safety.
One victim was posed wearing a fur coat and with a cigar in his mouth. Some had their beards and heads shaved. Others had their eyes closed. Then he would take close-up photos of their genitalia. Bruce stored these dead body photo shoots in digital files on his computer.
Which, that is nasty. Boy, I can't tell you what type of world we're living in now. We got a bunch of sickos out there that want to take pictures of men's junk. That guy needs to be on like a police watch list. Like, have police patrol him, and then if he does something wrong, they got him, right? And plus, storing all that stuff on your computer, that's going to lead to your downfall, dude. Anyway, let's continue on with the story.
He then dismembered his victims, distributing their body parts in one client's garden, putting to use his knowledge and skill in gardening. In June of 2016, Bruce ended up in a police station after a guy he was having sexual relations with reported him for almost choking him to death while they were in the back of his van. The man managed to escape and report Bruce to the police. And for the second time, Bruce turned himself into the police. The man who reported Bruce claimed they were hooking up in the back of his van when Bruce started choking him violently. The man claimed he barely managed to escape. But when Bruce was being questioned by police, he played it off that he was asked by the man to choke him, that he liked it rough.
And right now, you're under arrest. You were placed under arrest this evening for the offense of assault, okay? You've been brought here at 232 Division for the purposes of being investigated for that offense, okay? So an allegation has been made against you, and this officer in just a moment is going to let you know exactly what that allegation is, okay?
So the allegations are that around 6:30 p.m. this evening, you met up with a gentleman by the name of at the intersection of Bathurst and Finch. During the course of your involvement with him, there was an allegation made of an assault, which choking was the allegation made, and that's basically why you're under arrest today.
I could look on this camera right here and tell you he's trying to act all calm and everything, but he knows he did something wrong. Whatever he says, I'm calling BS on.
For that assault.
Okay. So, sir, if you would like to provide us with your account of what occurred earlier this evening.
Well, we talked about going for dinner, and he said he needed to take a shower, so I said I'd meet him at the Tim Hortons at Finch and Bathurst. And so he arrived, and we were going to have sex, and he suggested do it in the back of his truck since it hadn't been used yet. It was a brand new truck. I said, well, there's more room in the back of my van. So we went to my van. So then I thought, okay, he likes it rough. So I put my hand to his throat, and just for a few seconds, because before that he's very strong, he just completely turned around and grabbed me by the throat. He said, now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to you. And he had me by the throat to the point that I couldn't breathe. So I put my hands up in the air like surrender because I couldn't talk. And that's when he finally let go. And then he jumped out of the car and said, I don't want to see you again.
Has anything like this ever happened before where things got out of hand?
Not that quickly, or not just like that.
Things have never gotten violent?
No.
Okay.
I think he liked it rough.
The police believed Bruce's story, and the case was dropped. On June 26, 2017, Andrew Kinsman disappeared, and this was the start of Bruce's downfall. Andrew was different from Bruce's other victims. Andrew was well known and liked among Toronto's church and gay community, and he was the caretaker of his apartment building in Cabbagetown. His disappearance following Toronto's Gay Pride Parade was quickly noticed, and within days, posters of his face were seen all over town. Andrew had become the latest addition to the disturbing disappearances of gay men that had been plaguing the community for years. Andrew's friends and colleagues knew he was interested in true crime and serial killers. A colleague noted that he had an occasional hookup with a man very into the psychology of serial killers and how they functioned. When police searched Andrew's apartment, they found computer files on the serial killer and necrophile Dennis Nilsen, otherwise known as the Kindly Killer.
I don't think I never heard of that guy, but also, Bruce, I'm surprised he did not mention that case that happened before to the officers that he had dropped, but I cannot believe that they just let him go like that.
Dennis Nilsen's methods of murder were eerily similar to those of Bruce. They also found a documentary on U.S. serial killer John Wayne Gacy and 10 pictures of Bruce taken on September 11, 2010, using Andrew's camera. The name Bruce was also scribbled on Andrew's calendar, eerily coincidentally for the day he disappeared. It's possible Andrew suspected Bruce was a killer and was doing his own investigation. Police discovered CCTV footage showing Andrew getting into Bruce's red 2004 Dodge Caravan. They finally had a suspect. In September of 2017, while Bruce was under surveillance, police took a coffee cup he discarded in the trash to obtain a sample of his DNA. 2 months later, Bruce dumped his caravan at a scrapyard, which was seized by the police and forensically examined. They found blood and semen connecting multiple victims to Bruce, including Andrew Kinsman and another victim, Salim Essen. This evidence allowed police to obtain a warrant to enter Bruce's home covertly without him being there. Forensic experts discovered photographs of Andrew and Salim on his computer, taken after both men were dead. The timing of this discovery was impeccable, because Bruce was likely about to commit another murder. The next day, police witnessed a younger man arrive at Bruce's apartment building in Toronto. The man was likely to be Bruce's next victim. They raided Bruce's apartment, finding the man who entered his apartment naked and handcuffed to the bed with a black bag over his head. None of this was done with his consent, and he was screaming for help. Bruce was arrested and charged with the murders of Andrew and Salim. A deeper search of his apartment revealed files on each of his 8 victims, and souvenirs from each of his crimes. They included ropes and a metal bar used in the strangulations, jewelry from multiple victims, and a notebook from Salim. They also found a file he'd already prepared for the man they'd saved, confirming that he was close to having the same fate as the other 8 known victims. Police checked 75 properties that Bruce had worked on, and at one client's property in Leaside, they found body parts from the 8 victims in large planter boxes and an adjacent ravine. Karen Fraser, the homeowner, was shocked and stated that Bruce was the best friend, neighbor, relative anyone could want, a similar description many others used for him in the past. But one major question still stands: were there only 8 victims? Bruce entered a guilty plea early in court proceedings, but showed no sign of remorse. He was given a life sentence on each murder charge. Between 1975 and 1978, 14 men from Toronto's gay community were murdered. The method of killings varied, including beating, strangulation, and stabbing. Police solved around half of the cases, but the rest remained cold cases. It seems likely that Bruce was somehow linked to these other murders. For a seemingly jolly mall Santa to be capable of such atrocities makes you realize you never really know what kind of person somebody actually can be behind closed doors.
I agree with Mr. Nightmare, but you just never know nowadays that you trust this guy, and all of a sudden you find out in the news that they're serial killers. And I bet all his customers were probably shocked, horrified, and deeply traumatized and under stress because they found out that their gardens were full of dead body parts. That's one guy I would not recommend to do no garden job, I'm telling you. Whew. And I figured, when he was talking about the other guy with the glasses, was like a true crime fanatic. Bruce here figured that he was about to get caught and he had to do something quick to get rid of evidence. But hey, you just made the case a lot worse on you, buddy. But they gave him life sentences for each murder. I said, go ahead and give him a lethal injection or something. I don't know what they do in Canada. But anyway, that's going to be it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more Mr. Nightmare content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's rapid. Have a nice day, y'all.